Hi, I'm Eva Murphy from Electronic Engineering at IT Sligo, and this is my Leaving Cert Maths Grinds channel. I'll regularly add new videos for both higher and ordinary level maths, so make sure you subscribe below and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos.
Okay, so composite functions. Let's start with a little bit of theory on that. Okay, so when you take a function such as f of x and you then feed it into another function, this is what we call a composite function. So in other words, when two functions work on an input, then we end up with a combined output or a composite function. You need to be able to recognize the different ways composite functions are written. It could be as given here in number 1. So g, this little, it's like a 0 symbol, f of x. So g after f of x. Okay, so when I see that first, I see that I'm going to do the function beside x first. In other words, I will feed x, my input, into f, and then whatever I get for f of x, I then feed into g. Okay, so a bit like what's happening in this diagram here. This is my x. I feed it into f first, f is beside x, and then whatever I get for f of x becomes the input for g of x. Okay, so if you remember the wording g after f of x, then you'll be okay. It can also be written without that little 0 symbol, so it could be gf of x. Okay, so the exact same thing means the same thing. I'm going to do f first because it's beside x, and then g. Or you could have the square brackets around the f of x. Okay, this I think is the least common, or is definitely the least common one I've seen in maths. So all are pronounced g after f means do f followed by g. Okay, and it gets this section gets taught a couple of different ways. So one way it's taught is that you work out a single rule for the composite functions. Okay, so we're going to have a look at this example in theory. We have f of x being x plus 3 and g of x then being x squared plus 1. Our domain, which is our set of inputs, is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that's what we're going to feed into g after f. Okay, so one way it gets taught is that you combine these two functions into a single rule. So basically it's g after f. Okay, so f is fed into g of x. Okay, and just like we would in any other functions type question, okay, if this is what I'm feeding into the function, then x gets replaced with x plus 3. Let me just clean that one off a bit because I kind of wrote around it. Okay, so if my g of x then in that case was x squared plus 1, I am feeding f in for it. Okay, so in other words, let me write my f of x up here so you can see it. Okay, this goes in for x, so that I end up with x plus 3 squared plus 1. Okay, that's my f of x. In theory, I do that first, but there's nothing I can do to that. And then I do g after. So f of x is fed into g. So that's my f of x. Anywhere there's x, I replace it then with f of x. And then by working this out, which is just that, I then come up with this single expression for g after f of x. Okay, so some teachers teach it that way. Others don't bother creating this composite single rule, and you just do it in two pieces. You would work out what f of x is first, and then you would do g of f of x. Okay, so if I could give a numerical example now, you'll see what I mean by you just do it in piecewise. So I am going to say my input is 3. Okay, so remember I'm doing g after f of x. So f of 3 then becomes 3 plus 3, which is 6. Okay, what did I do there? My f of x is x plus 3. So my x got replaced with 3, and then I added on the other 3. So then g after f of x or f of 3 means this gets fed in then into g of x. And remember, g of x is x squared plus 1. So I have 6 squared plus 1. So you get 37. Okay, so they're linked, they're chained together. I worked out what was f of 3 first. Whatever answer I got for that gets fed in then to g of x. Okay, or like I said, you could have come up with that single rule, and if you feed it into g of f of 3, when you come up with a single rule, you have already combined the two functions together. So then you sub the 3 in for that one as such. So you get 3 squared plus 6 times 3 plus 10. 2 3s are 9, 6 3s are 18, and you get your 37 that way. So coming up with a single rule, you just sub the 3 in directly, or you can do it piecemeal first. You sub it into the function that's beside the number first, and then sub it into the other one. Okay, but either way, it's composite functions or linked or chained functions together. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is just written down here on the note, and I took this diagram from Project Maths book because I think they do a good job of summarizing it all. This doesn't come up too often, but what does it mean? Okay, when it's written as f after f of x, that's not too bad. You sub it into f of x and you sub the answer back in. Okay, it's a bit more confusing when it's written as f squared of x like that. Okay, so f squared of x is f after f. Okay, and then you can even do it 3 times. So f after f would be written as f cubed of x. Okay, so I just wanted to draw your attention to that little note down the bottom. I can't think of too many years it has come up. I've seen it in mocks, but not really in exam papers. So you may not be familiar with it. Okay, so that is the theory behind that. We're going to do a couple of these now and just literally practice them and make sure they're okay.
If you've enjoyed this video, then why not join us in IT Sligo and use maths in practice. In conjunction with industry, we've designed an exciting new program in electronics and self-driving technologies, which uses cutting-edge techniques such as artificial intelligence, computer vision, and virtual and augmented reality. You'll need a H5 in maths to qualify. Check out the link below.